Doubtless you would agree that it's beyond simply uplifting to see those heavy-handed, jack-booted thugs down there in Danistan doing their bit to get us to net zero. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, and I get new cars cheap. Australia only. Website. Card. Victoria Police Highway Patrol pretty clearly going for gold here in the Electric Imbecility Olympics. Oi, 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 you muppets. Like, dude, come on. You can see what's wrong with this picture, can't you?
This video is sponsored by Olight. I'll put links in the description. The O-Pen Glow is on sale, 30% off. A significant upgrade here. It's a torch and a writing light and a laser pointer and also a pen, oddly enough. The Perrin 2 is on sale for 30% off, so you'll get it for under $90. Super versatile torch. It's a 90-degree torch, a head torch, a clip-on and a waterproof emergency work light. The Baton 3 Pro Max is a great EDC torch for under $100 right now. It's got a huge 5,000 milliamp hour battery, so you get long run times, 5 brightness settings, and it's also IPX8 waterproof. The Optical now for the EDC fraternity. Laser cut, titanium coated, credit card sized utility tool for about $7. Also good for holding a credit card, a driver's license, and a few bills of cash if you go out on a day walk. And finally, the Robato 2 O-Knife. Left and right hand compatible, it's got a rail lock, 154 chrome moly sheep's foot blade, very slick design overall, and it's under $100 right now. I don't want to detain you for too long here and now, so I've done a longer overview video of these Olights, which I will link somewhere up there when this one goes live if you need more information. I'll also put in the description my guide to buying an Olight because there is just frankly so much choice, and the right one kind of depends on you. I'll put that in the description as well. Links to the sale in the description too. It's on right now until Friday at midnight, and I'll put a code down there as well for 12% off outside the sale if you watch this video sometime in the future. And thanks very much to Olight for sponsoring this episode.
Depicted here, and thank you sincerely, unnamed person who leaked me those photographs. Made my Friday, dude. It's a Danistan Highway Patrol Tesla Model X. Silent but deadly car too, pretty quick. And depending on whether you tick the performance or long range box and which spec level you went with, I think it retailed for $125,000 to $170,000, which is a big wedge of cash. Except, of course, if you're buying it on the taxpayer, in which case, dude, who cares, right? It has a 100 kilowatt hour battery. Hold that thought, dude. 100 kilowatt hours. That is a big battery pack. It gives that car, the way a highway patrol copper would drive it, probably about 400 k's of range. But for you and me, probably about 500, maybe a bit more, depending on the operating conditions. Blah, blah, blah. Seen here, of course, in its bespoke recharging bay at an undisclosed Victoria Police operational shithole. And I can tell that this is that vehicle's bespoke bay by virtue of the Bunnings extension cord that is creatively zip-tied to the steel fence in the manner of some, I don't know, person of interest you're trying to soften up a little bit for a chat later on with a pro forma confession at the end. Being zip-tied to a fence is probably a good way to get somebody borderline introspective, even if they are somewhat the sociopath, don't you think? It'd work on me, especially if your nose got itchy while you were, out there overnight in your underwear, and maybe even more so if they come out from time to time and knee you in the recharging bay. I don't know if that happens anymore. Certainly it used to. It's probably not the best way to recharge a shitbox such as this, however, I'd suggest. Now, let's just think about this operationally for a moment, okay? 100 kilowatt hour battery, car comes in after a big shift of, I don't know, booking people for doing 3Ks over the fucking limit. Car comes in almost dead flat. You're going to have to recharge it like that for about 50 hours until it's fully recharged and ready to rip again. So you get about, I don't know, 2 kilowatt-ish out of the wall box. It's probably not pulling the full 10 amps. There's probably a bit of voltage drop along a long Bunnings cord, such as that, with a cheap-ass Chinese wire in it. So I think you'd be lucky to pull 2 kilowatts out of that. And that is rather a great deal of, coffee, donuts, and lounging around, stroking each other's batons. It's a hell of a lot of that kind of stuff, and it doesn't seem like a very efficient way to deploy a vehicle such as that missed on the public purse. It just doesn't. Of course, my other big problem with this, I hesitate to call it an installation, but it's kind of a ghetto recharging installation, don't you think? It's in a workplace. And although someone has done an admirable job, I guess you'd say, of ensuring that Chairman Dan does not garrot himself if he storms through that gate that you can see just there on some snap inspection, right? Creative plumbing with the zip ties. Dude who did it. Show me the place in any occupational health and safety manual anywhere that deals with zip tying an extension cord to a steel fence in lieu of a quasi-permanent electric vehicle recharger, or as a means of getting electricity to any other location in a workplace. Like, come on, you dipshits. It doesn't work this way. Try doing that on a construction site or in a mine or anywhere else where people are at work, like a frickin' factory. Come on, you'd just be shot. WorkSafe wherever would have a field day with that kind of crap. I mean, who thought that was a good idea? Come on. You could instead, I don't know, dig a trench and run a 32 amp cable in some conduit and put a all-weather wall box just there on a post and do it safely and faster. Let's not forget that, because you get 7 kilowatts out of one of those things, even on single phase, and that means better for the taxpayer if you actually are keeping the roads safer. And yeah, someone's going to say it in the comments, so I'm going to address this. There probably is a core balance relay in the switchboard somewhere protecting the circuit into which that extension cord is plugged. But the purpose of a core balance relay, safety switch, residual current device, whatever you want to call it, it's not frontline operational protection of people who just do stupid things with electricity. It's meant to be there as a last resort. It's the fail-safe protecting you even though you did everything else right. But what would I know? Pro tip. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's hidden in plain sight. It's a beautiful thing to see. There's a dirty big galvanised steel pole. It's vertically oriented right there, almost up the arse of the Model X parked in its bespoke bay. And I'm tipping it's got one of those friggin' glow-in-the-dark things on top of it for, nighttime when the sun fucks off. It's probably got wires going to it, with electrons floating along them. Maybe we could just, upgrade that, lunch off it in some way. Just saying. Dude. Full points, I guess, for improvising, adapting and overcoming in the circumstances and just making shit happen. But minus infinity out of a possible 0 for just dumping the standard shitbox Tesla emergency charger in the de facto weeds in that busted ass garden bed in the back of the car park. Like, what could possibly go wrong there while you're spending, that afternoon and the evening, most of the night, and much of the next day sitting around with your donuts and your coffee, stroking each other's batons, waiting for the fucking battery to recharge. It's never rained in Victoria, after all. I am so grateful to the person who took those photographs and to the person who sent them to me. Did you notice the expression, the slogan on the rear bumper, in that rear quarter of the bumper there, towards zero? Hear, hear, I say to the person who put that there. Obviously a statement about senior station management's electrical safety intelligence quotient, I'd suggest, pushing those freaking boundaries. That's what makes them so special, after all. What worries me more than anything else here, and this is kind of a serious point, like, the Highway Patrol in every state enjoys this well-deserved reputation among real police who fight actual crime for being little more than rodents in blue in fast cars who often drive more dangerously than the people they spend their lives apprehending. Okay? Here in New South Wales, they call the Highway Patrol the jury wreckers because normal law-abiding citizens, i.e. the only people on the jury roll, at least, I guess there are some criminals on the jury roll, they're just smart enough not to have been caught yet, right? But normal law-abiding citizens who get called up for juries and they're being asked by the prosecution to put away someone who's a human trafficker or a drug smuggler or a proper criminal, in other words, a lot of them sit there and go, I don't trust those fucking cops. All they've ever done is pull me over and book me for some trivial shit, right? Hence the nickname here in New South Shitsville. Right? But somewhere in that station there are real cops fighting actual crime, trying to apprehend real criminals, and they have a pretty hard job. They've got to do stuff like they've got to know the limitations of their powers, which are legislated, and they've got to know the rules of evidence, and they've got to have a chain of custody for this and that, and there's legislation that they're actually enforcing, and they have to know the nuances of that so they can find people actually breaking those rules and bringing them in, and then they have to have, interrogation techniques that work, and they have to know about surveillance and operational security. It's not all just sitting there drinking coffee and stroking some senior officer's fucking baton, is it? It's a fair bit of polishing that goes on, I'm sure, like if you want to climb your way through the ranks. But it's not all that. You have to fight actual crime from time to time, I'm sure. Now, these sworn apprehenders of societal scumbags who actually do something valuable for the community, okay, they're ruled, governed, whatever, by those in the higher ranks who in this case don't apparently have the same grasp of electrical safety which I would expect the median child in Australia to have before they get their age into double digits. It just makes me wonder who thought this was a good idea. And it's not just an extension cord that's been dragged out there today. This is zip-tied to the fence. It's in there for the long haul. Like, come on. Kind of puts, I guess you'd call it a hole in my faith in the criminal justice system. But you know what? It is admirably metaphoric. And this is a real point as well, tragically enough. It's admirably metaphoric of the way EVs are being rolled out throughout not just our country currently, but the entire fucking world.